So we are talking about the ovarian palace and how we can nourish that area and also detox that area the best way possible, which is with the vaginal infusions, which is basically taking nutraceuticals and putting nutrition into the vaginal canal, and what that does for us.
And it's really the holy grail for women, for healing, for regenerating, for claiming our power and really connecting with our divine feminine.
Yeah, well, and the vaginal canal lives right next door to the rectum, which a lot of us have constipation or even compaction, so there's a lot of inflammation in that area, and because it's just like one cell thick, or I guess two because you got both there, that's separating the two, there can be a lot of overspill. And again, it's the bottom of the pelvic bowl, which for a lot of us is a highly inflamed and toxic place. So when you put nutrition into the vaginal canal, you actually have 1,000% more absorption, and of course it's doing its job a lot quicker, because if you're sending it down this way, one, you got to deal with the stomach acid, which is denaturing what you're putting in, so it takes longer to get there, and it's not as effective as just going right in that gateway that we have there. So what you're going to use for the vaginal infusion, you're going to take silver bullet gel, which is 30 parts per million, silver, which is your nature's best antibacterial, but it's not going to imbalance any of the good flora that is supposed to be there, which is the important key, right? Then you're going to take nanofulvic, bright eyes, which this is a superior antioxidant, but it's also going to lock down the toxicity that can be there from heavy metals to parasites. Yes, I said parasites. And chemicals that have polluted that area, again, from the large intestine being leaking. And that's like 90 to 95% of people out there. Your large intestine is leaking whether you're aware of it or not, right? If you have smells or funky discharge happening there, then you really want to take this into consideration and utilize it. You're also going to use hemp C60 or the MCT C60. Personally, I like the hemp C60 when doing it at night, because that's my favorite time to do the vaginal infusions, because you can keep them in overnight. And then you're going to use either frankincense, frankincense, or lavender in there as well. Wow, that was pin drop there. And then you mix that up, and then you can put just the tiniest sprinkle of the black diamond, again for the delivering of nutrition to that area and the chelating and locking down of toxins. And
can you give dosages? And also, can you also go through everything from endometriosis to cysts to bladder infections to infertility? This reverses it all.
Yeah, so no matter what conditions you have going on there, so it could be painful periods, it could be fibroids, it could be ovarian cysts, it could be endometriosis, it could be even just bloating in that area before your period. It will bring that down, because that's just a symptom of the inflammation in the area. The symptoms of menopause, that transition we go through, does not need to be intense. The thing is with the period, as women, we're very lucky that our body will get rid of some of the worst toxins that we have as we shed the lining. We get to dismiss a lot of that because it's essentially bloodletting, right? So as the period slows down, now we're not getting to do that. So what does the body do? It gives us hot flashes. It turns up the heat to burn off those toxins, because we're trying to compensate for the fact that we're losing that shedding ability. And that's one reason why women live longer than men, because we have that process in the body. And why do we have that? Because we bring life into the world. We need to keep our bodies as pristine as possible, and our body does try to do that for us. So with the vaginal infusions dosage, you're taking an ounce or just under an ounce of the silver bullet gel, and then you're adding a half a teaspoon up to a teaspoon of the nanofulvic bright eyes. And again, it's a range. Everybody has a slightly different size down there and what we can take in, right? Then you're going to take a half a teaspoon to that teaspoon again of the hemp C60. And then you're going to take anywhere from 1 drop and up to 10 if you're using frankincense. If you're using frankincense, you're going to use 1 to maybe 3 because it's much more potent.
I just got a bottle of that recently. Oh, it's amazing.
Isn't it
Is
amazing?
amazing. You wake up in the morning
Yeah.
just feeling so alive and juicy down there.
Yeah,
Our
absolutely.
frankincense is the most purest concentrate of frankincense in the world. That's why.
Yeah, I have both of them, and you can really tell the vibrational difference
Very much,
when
yes.
you use it. So with the essential oils, you start with less, like 1 drop of the frankincense, or if you're using frankincense, it's like 2 to 3, right? And with the frankincense, you can work your way up to 10. With the frankincense, I would say 3 to 4 is kind of that maximum of what you're going to use in there. The black diamond will always be just a tiny sprinkle, because if you were to put a full 1/16 of a teaspoon or even half of that, it will liquefy it, so it'll be really runny and you won't keep it in as much. So ladies, you want to have your hips elevated, so have a pillow or a bolster underneath so your hips are elevated, and you're tipping your tailbone up, right, so that you're keeping that in there. 20 minutes is ideal. For myself, I like to actually sleep with it overnight, so I just put a panty liner on and sleep with it, and there's next to nothing actually comes out. You absorb it all, and you're getting really great nourishment and detoxification. And that being said, things can come out, and more than what you might realize, because for a lot of us, there can be like a thick mucoid layer in there, just because, again, it's at the bottom of the pelvic bowl. So depending on the inflammation and what issues you're dealing with, it's just super restorative for that area. And if you have extreme conditions going on, you will take the infinite iodine and you will do a rinse beforehand. So you're going to take anywhere from half a teaspoon to a teaspoon. Get yourself a glass eyedropper, because it's just easier and nicer. Have your hips elevated, and for 30 to 60 seconds, keep them up, insert the iodine in there.
How? What are we using to get it in? Did you tell
A
them?
glass eyedropper.
I know, but what about the infusion?
Oh, with the infusion, you're going to use a lubricant launcher. So if you were to do a search on Amazon, you can go vaginal/rectal lubricant launcher, and it's a blue or black launcher. It works better than a
Where
syringe.
do I get it from?
I said Amazon.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy search on Amazon. They usually come in groups of 2. They have usually a 6-inch version or a 7-inch. The 6-inch one, if you fill it twice, holds that roughly an ounce, just under an ounce, right? So I find 2 is lots, although there are some women who will do 3 or 4 of them, because again, we're all just a little different down there. So you can play with that yourself. There's no right or wrong. The iodine infusions really help. And then there are women that have said, oh, I've had some burning. If you have burning, you're really acidic. So you can do a warm water with black diamond, just kind of rinse beforehand, then do your iodine, and you won't have that same burning when the infusion does leave. If you're doing them in the morning, 20 minutes is what you need to have that maximum absorption, and to, again, just to check in with that terrain and rebalancing. Sometimes you may need to do it twice a day, like if you have a yeast infection as an example, do it in the morning, do it at night, and you're gonna rebalance that terrain a lot quicker. I had a friend of mine who I recommended that to, in 2 days, it was gone. You don't need Canestin, you don't need those things. You can rebalance that terrain.
Yep, and I've had clients who've had trouble with yeast infections for years and years and years, and doing this for 2-3 weeks, it's life-changing. It really eliminates that, because we're rebalancing, we're toning, we're regenerating, and we're really getting rid of...
Revitalizing the tissues that have just been surrounded with inflammation and on fire. So if you're experiencing female pelvic dysfunction, this is an amazing opportunity to regenerate those tissues and not have to suffer, right? Do you want to suffer, or do you want to restore and regenerate? Then take advantage of the vaginal infusions. Maybe check out the Women's Pelvic Restoration and Disease Prevention Masterclass, where you will get the strategies on the nutritional level and on the emotional level, and actually learn to connect with your sacred feminine and heighten your intent and your connection to your holy grail of healing as a woman, which is in the ovarian palace, and where life begins. And really where life ends as well, if you're out of balance.
You know, that's right, and I'm in my 50th year, and it's really taken me till this year to really understand and connect with that area. I've had 4 children, and it's just such a beautiful, sacred process and a practice of really coming home to myself, and for women to come home to themselves. And in ancient cultures and in tribes, this was taught to young girls coming of age. And it's just so important just to honour that, because it really brings out just the full beauty and the vitality what it is to be a woman. And being 50, 60 or 70, you don't need to get old and wrinkly and shut down a bit. It's only the beginning.
And if you learn to care for yourself and nurture and honor yourself now, you won't need to do restoration, because prevention is literally worth a pound of cure. It's like, learn how to keep yourself in alignment and support health, and then you don't have to try to backtrack after having developed a dis-ease, or which is really just being out of alignment on an emotional level, and then on the physical level. Like, is your body moving, or have you spent your whole life sitting or primarily seated? You're going to have stagnation there. Do you have length and strength in the tissues, or are they calcified and contracted, or are they just prolapsed, which is just weakness in the tissue? There's no elasticity left. That can return with nourishment and with intentional activation. So the work on the internal muscles, including the vaginal canal, which is a muscle. I got to learn that after having my daughter, something I wasn't really aware of, and I had done a lot of working out. I was very, very active. I was in the gym, and then afterwards it was like, oh, something's changed there. Then I did the pelvic restoration, and it was amazing to see how quickly I was able to tone the tissue there. But again, it took that intent and going inward and really turning the attention there.
Can you tell them what they would find out and what they would be doing in the 3-day pelvic restoration course? The one, and let them know what the date is here and the one in Bonita. Can you tell them can you go through what they're going to learn in those 3 days?
Well, what you're going to learn is a roadmap to honor and respect your body, first on the nutritional level, so developing your perfect day and taking the right nutrients in so that you don't have that swamp in the pelvic bowl. You're also going to learn on the physical level the exercises that are going to lengthen, strengthen, and tone. So basically taking the vaginal canal to the gym and the muscles of the pelvic bowl, the pubococcygeal, the puborectalis, and the iliococcygeal. Long words. And then you're also going to learn on an emotional level to connect to your sacred divine feminine, to, with intent, connect to yourself and give yourself permission to love yourself. Because as women, we're always nurturing and looking to give and protect outside of ourselves. But what about gifting yourself at that same time so that you have more to give? So it's 3 very powerful days where we cover those 3 topics, and you're going to walk away with a toolbox to restore, revitalize, and maintain your health. So all 3 of those things.
Absolutely. And the next one we are having in Coffs Harbour here at Nambucca Heads from the 4th to the 6th of September, and we've got 4 spots left.
Oh, 4.
4.
Nice.
Yes.
4 spots left, and then after that will be
The last one of the year.
Well, the last one of the year will be Bonita Springs, Florida, and it's the 27th, 28th, and 29th of October, I believe.
So take massive personal action and don't miss out.
Gift yourself with some me time, ladies, and just learn how powerful you are, because we are powerful and we've just been cut off from our powerhouse, and you won't regret it.
And then let's pass that on to the next generation and the young women coming through, because
they won't have to.
It's our duty.
It's our duty, and they won't have to experience the common dysfunctions that are not normal for healthy women.
Does anybody else have questions on this? No? Yes, go right ahead, Lo.
No, don't mix water with the iodine. Just use it straight. Yeah.
And the iodine will totally disinfect in 15 seconds.
In 15 seconds. That's why I said it's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And give it that time.
And just so you know, I had a lady who called up, and she's 84 years old. And when I say this with all the respect in the world. I'm not giving her name or where she lives.
Yeah.
And she said, Dr. Wolf, I've been following you, and I just don't know what to do anymore, and I can't take it anymore. She said, for the last 20 years, all I smell is dead fish coming up from there. And I go, well, just do this, and do the vaginal infusion, and do the vaginal infusion 3 times, okay? She called up, and it was around 11 o'clock. I said, do it 3 times, and do it every 4 hours, okay? All right? And then call me and let me know how it's going the next day. You know what she said? And she's been a client since. She said, Dr. Wolf, the next morning, it smells like roses.
Well,
I'm not sure how it could smell like roses, though.
It's really powerful when you take on the concept of, hey, if I nourish my body and give it what it needs, it can rebalance and function on an optimal level. And then for the people out here who are asking about a website, if you go to braveheartnation.com, you can check out the dates of where we are. If you're thinking, hey, I'd like a pelvic restoration consultation, you can click on consultation, and there's 3-4 of us women there that do pelvic restoration consultation. So you can get a roadmap for you, and then maybe you're like, hey, you know what, I'm going to come take the course because I want to unleash my feminine power. I want to experience what the divine feminine is. And you unleash it when you intentionally connect.
And just know this, there are pelvic restoration master trainers in this room.
Yeah.
I mean, how many women need this? All women. What if we were to teach this to teenagers or even younger?
We would get rid of the female.
Well, there'd be no more
dysfunction.
hysterectomies, would there? None.
No, because we know how to nourish and respect that area instead of when we're out of alignment, just cutting it out or burning it or taking birth control to try and regulate a hormonal problem, which really is an emotional problem because your brain is a chemist that secretes hormones when you're stressed. So when you're stressed, this acidifies the terrain of the body. When the terrain becomes acidic, you have inflammation, and the body's going to start pulling calcium to buffer that down. So what is a cyst? What is fibroids? They're like calcium deposits mixed with toxicity that is built up in that area, and your body's attempting to wall it off and just contain it till it can deal with it. Well, we got to get emotionally balanced, and then we got to look at what we're doing on a physical level with our exercise. Are we moving? Because if we're not moving, our body is an ocean that is meant to be in motion, right? If we're stagnant, there's going to be all sorts of calcium deposits. Think of barnacles that build up and create blocks in the flow, right? So we are powerful beyond what we've been allowed to believe, and if we facilitate what the body is capable of with nourishment, with conscious intent, there is actually no thing you can't do. Any other questions?
I think you had one, didn't you?
I was like, for the men out there, you can use, for any men out there listening, you can use the vaginal infusion as a rectal infusion, say after the ultimate coffee enema, and you'll be blown away with what it can assist you with as well.
Just know this, if you're dealing with a prostate problem, a bladder problem, a rectal problem, a large intestine problem, if a man does this, he heals it. That's it.
The only difference is you wouldn't use lavender, you would just use the frankincense or frankincense.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's move on, and we'll take a couple-minute break, and then we'll show how to do
3,
a
2,
vaginal
1.
infusion.
You got
in
this.
man.
Bye, everyone.
Good luck today.